Okay, let's move on to Roosevelt's second goal, which was recovery. And under recovery, we have something called the Tennessee Valley Authority. This was a very interesting program of Roosevelt because he had a couple of goals. One was, of course, to put people to work, but again, with a lot of the New Deal programs, he said, as long as we're putting people to work, let's also improve the country. And one area he was concerned about was the Tennessee Valley area, which was a very poor area that really did need some help. The average income of the people living here was 2/5 the national average, and since the national average was already very low, it was a very high poverty area. They also had a lot of flood problems and soil erosion and depleted forests from their farming practices. It was very rural. Only 3 of 100 farms had electricity. So therefore, he said, let's use the Tennessee Valley River to work for the people. And so they built dams and they used that to provide cheap electricity. They planted trees and they, of course, created jobs. Here you can see a map of the area that the Tennessee Valley Authority served. It was not just Tennessee, but surrounding states as well. And here we have some TVA workers working on a dam control building. And no, I did not just swear. Thank you. Okay, the National Recovery Administration. This is another program, also known as NERA, which was pretty controversial at the time, but also very popular. In fact, many babies born at this time were named NERA. The purpose of this was to try and control production, since overproduction was a problem, and also to try and create fair working conditions for people, because during this time, many employers were slashing hours, they were slashing wages, and so it was a voluntary program that asked stores, businesses, companies to limit the work week to 40 hours and to provide a minimum wage of 30 cents to 40 cents an hour and to not hire child labor. This was pretty revolutionary. The idea of a minimum wage, of a limited hour work week. The other thing that it did was have price controls set in each industry to end competition for low prices, so businesses couldn't keep undercutting each other. It also asked them to limit production. And if you followed all of these rules, you could then display a blue eagle in your storefront, which was one of these, which isn't blue here, but it was blue. And that was a signal to the public that you were a business that was trying hard and following the guidelines of the NRA, and therefore they should be encouraged to shop there. This greatly expanded government's role in the economy. And there you can see a picture hanging up the NRA sign in a restaurant. Another very controversial act during this time was something called the Agricultural Adjustment Act. This was designed to target the overproduction that farmers had been doing for quite some time. And farmers were actually paid not to grow crops to prevent surpluses. I bet all of you would like to be paid not to clean your room. But some crops were too far advanced when they passed this to not grow. And so farmers were also actually paid to destroy crops. The government paid $200 million to farmers to plow under 10 million acres of cotton. They also paid farmers to slaughter 6 million hogs. Now, obviously, you're probably thinking, well, that's crazy. This is the Great Depression. Why would they waste all of this when people were needy? It was basically to get farmers back on their feet so that prices for farm goods went up and farmers would get more income. It was later deemed unconstitutional.